Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into a really fascinating and honestly, maybe a little controversial paradox. It's absolutely crucial to understand, though. We're looking at why high intelligence does not guarantee a high net worth. Have you ever looked at someone who seems, well, let's just say a lot less book smart than you, but they're out there living the exact life you wish you had? Yeah, it's a bitter pill to swallow, for sure. And it's exactly what our source material calls the intellectual trap. We're kicking things off with a statistic from the source data that honestly blew my mind: 70%. According to the research, 70% of individuals with IQs above 130 fail to accumulate meaningful wealth. And that's despite having virtually every intellectual advantage in the book. I mean, think about it. You can probably explain compound interest perfectly, you know all the complex macroeconomic theories, but somehow you just aren't earning the returns yourself.
And that leads us right into the central thesis of our explainer today. It's a really blunt question, I know, but we've got to ask it. If you're so smart, why aren't you rich? Why aren't you happy and surrounded by freedom? This whole concept really challenges us to separate raw academic intellect from the actual practical ability to just figure life out. Because clearly, being able to ace a standardized test is fundamentally different from being able to navigate the messy real world.
To truly win, you have to succeed across 5 foundational pillars. We're talking money, health, relationships, emotion, and intellect. It's like a giant puzzle. You see, a lot of highly intelligent people kind of confuse their big brain with an overarching ability to succeed in life generally. But if you're lacking in just one area, like money for example, it's going to inevitably bleed into and sabotage all the others. The whole structure just falls apart. So we really need to look at what specifically is holding these highly intelligent folks back.
So let's get right into trap number 1, the ego trap.
The source points out something so incredibly true about how we're brought up in the education system. Think about being in school. You raise your hand, you give the right answer, and boom, you get praise. You get a gold star. But when highly intelligent people enter the real world, they kind of expect that same gold star just for having the right answer. When the world actually demands output instead, they get angry. They start claiming rich people just got lucky, or they're exploiting others. But the harsh truth? Bitterness is really just entitlement with a better vocabulary.
And because a lot of intellectuals secretly suspect they might actually struggle at the raw, gritty game of building wealth, what do? They try to change the game entirely into a game of status. They start chasing prestige over profits. They stack up diplomas and fancy titles, essentially trying to borrow an institution's reputation. And worse, they often sort of brainwash themselves into viewing sales or simply wanting money as something morally suspicious. Without even realizing it, they are completely blocking their own path to financial freedom.
Plain and simple, arrogance keeps intelligent people poor because they flat out refuse to ask for help. Think about this visual. While the intellectual is standing in the middle of a jungle, stubbornly trying to navigate by reading the constellations, a person with a lower IQ will just walk up to the nearest local and ask for directions to the village. The data is super clear here. Actual top performers purposefully seek out coaching and mentorship, and as a result, they experience dramatically higher income growth.
Moving on, we hit trap 2, the execution trap.
So the crucial point here is understanding the difference between declarative knowledge and procedural knowledge. Look, you can read about crunches all day long, right? But that is not going to give you a six-pack. Knowing the theory of entrepreneurship or leadership is completely different from getting mud on your clothes, making embarrassing mistakes, and actually learning out in the real world. Smart people usually hate making mistakes, so they just stay safely tucked away in the realm of theory.
They also tend to overanalyze every single opportunity out of a crippling fear of failure. They tell themselves, oh, I'm just doing more research. But here's the thing, the market doesn't wait for your research. The market is always shifting. By the time you've analyzed every possible variable, someone else has already taken action, and the opportunity is completely gone. The lesson here is simple but profound. You literally cannot steer a parked car. You have to start moving. Okay, this classic anecdote hits the nail on the head when it comes to over-engineering solutions. You've probably heard the story. When sending humans to space, NASA supposedly spent $150 million perfecting a pen that writes in zero gravity, while others simply used a pencil. Now, whether that's perfectly historically accurate or just a really great parable, actually, it doesn't even matter. The principle from the source is vital. Intellectuals believe that complexity equals value. But clients, they don't want complexity. They just want clarity and a job well done.
In fact, the source data backs this up beautifully.
Simple offerings outperform unnecessarily complex ones by up to a whopping 120% in customer acquisition. People will happily open their wallets to get a job done without all the unnecessary fluff or the fancy jargon that an intellectual uses just to prove how smart they are.
Here's another crazy thing. Highly intelligent people tend to profoundly undervalue their own time. It's due to something called cognitive effort bias. Basically, they just love the romantic feeling of figuring something out all by themselves. So they will literally waste $100 worth of their own time trying to fix a $10 problem. The wealthy, on the other hand, they love leverage. If a task isn't worth their hourly rate, they outsource it immediately. The intelligent mind loves friction. The wealthy mind loves efficiency.
And let's be honest, the smarter you are, the better you are at justifying your own bad choices. This is the deadly sunk cost fallacy in action. Intellectuals will waste years, sometimes even decades, defending dying industries, bad careers, or toxic relationships. Why? Not because they're actually working, but because they've already invested so much time and their precious reputation into them. They like to call it loyalty, but really, it's just staying on a sinking ship simply because you built it.
And what happens when you combine two people who think exactly like this? Well, the source reveals that when two risk-averse intellectuals partner up, their combined analysis paralysis is just staggering. Their household becomes a university of hypotheses rather than a factory of outcomes. It takes them 2.3 times longer to make major life decisions than everyone else. They literally just build a massive library of reasons not to take action.
Now let's dive into our final category, Trap 3, the market trap.
While the smart mind loves to romanticize perfect, small-batch, artisan execution, the reality of wealth is very, very different. The marketplace rewards availability, speed, and scale. Small-batch goods have incredibly high labor costs, and they really struggle to compete. The undeniable reality from the source is that over 70% of global consumer spending goes to companies operating at massive scale.
Intellectuals also often label themselves as introverts, right? And they tend to look down on unmeasurable soft skills like charisma, leadership, and sales. They call them fake skills. But the data shows a totally different reality. 8 of the 10 highest-paying competencies on Earth are actually soft skills. Furthermore, with AI bringing the cost of pure, raw intelligence down to pennies, it is the soft skills that are securing the bag right now.
A massive trap for the highly intelligent is believing the market cares about how hard they worked. Spoiler alert, it doesn't. The market only cares about the outcome. You cannot justify charging a premium just because you spent a decade mastering an outdated programming language or some ridiculously complex tool. If someone else can deliver the exact same outcome faster and cheaper, they're going to get rich, and you're going to get left behind.
We absolutely must shatter this myth that great work just gets noticed automatically. We live in an incredibly noisy world. If you just sit back, waiting for the world to organically notice your genius, you will fade into obscurity. Honestly, if your work could speak for itself, it would have spoken by now. You have to go out there and sell it.
So how do we fix this? Let's look at the ultimate wealth solution.
The ultimate roadmap to wealth really involves a partnership within your own mind. It means dropping the ego once and for all and combining your raw intellect with real-world business acumen. You use your intellectual brain to invent incredible solutions, but you absolutely must acquire the business brain to actually trade those solutions with the masses. When a smart person truly understands business, they become completely limitless.
It all boils down to this. You can get anything you want in life, but let's get you rich first. By learning the actual rules of the game, by embracing sales, seeking out mentorship, and valuing speed and action over perfect, endless analysis, smart people can finally stop being their own worst enemies.
To wrap up this explainer, we want to leave you with this final provocative thought. You have the intellect. That is a given. But the choice is entirely yours. Will you stay parked in the intellectual trap, using your big brain to just complain about how unfair the rules are? Or will you take action, learn the game, and mold those rules to build the wealth you actually desire? Thanks so much for joining me today, and keep learning.